Have you ever watched someone walk into a place where they clearly didn't belong, yet somehow carried themselves with a quiet strength that made you wonder what's their story? That's exactly what happened the day a new girl stepped into the schoolyard. Nobody knew her past, nobody knew the storms she had already survived. But when the bullies tried to humiliate her, hosing her down in front of everyone, what she did next didn't just silence them, it made them run. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why her courage left an entire school forever changed. The schoolyard buzzed with laughter and gossip as the bell rang. Students scattered into groups, friends clinging to friends, cliques gathering in their usual corners. That's when she walked in. Her name was Amira, the new girl. She wore second-hand shoes that squeaked slightly with every step. Her backpack was worn at the edges, and her long hair partially hid her face. But her eyes held a depth, like they had seen more than a 14-year-old should have. Amira had transferred after her father's sudden passing and her mother's decision to move to a smaller town for work. She didn't know anyone here. All she wanted was a quiet seat in the back of the classroom, a chance to start over, maybe even a friend who could see past her silence. But high school corridors are rarely kind to outsiders. A group of boys, self-proclaimed kings of the yard, noticed her immediately. They thrived on attention, on finding someone weaker to mock. The leader, Dylan, smirked when he saw Amira. "Hey, look at the new girl. Doesn't she look like she just crawled out of a thrift store?" The others laughed. Amira didn't answer. She lowered her gaze, gripping her backpack straps tighter. But that silence, that refusal to react, only fueled their cruelty. The days passed, and their pranks grew harsher. Books accidentally knocked from her hands, her locker stuffed with crumpled paper, whispered insults behind her back. And then came the Friday afternoon when everything changed. The sun blazed down on the schoolyard. Amira was quietly crossing the field when Dylan and his crew dragged a garden hose from behind the gym. Students gathered quickly, nothing spread faster than the scent of drama. Before Amira could understand what was happening, the icy blast of water struck her chest, soaking her completely. Gasps, laughter, and phone cameras surrounded her. She stood frozen, drenched, the water dripping from her clothes onto the dusty ground. Dylan leaned on the hose, laughing. "Welcome to our school, new girl. Guess you needed a bath anyway." For a moment, it looked like she would break, run away crying like they expected. But instead, Amira slowly raised her head. Her hair clung to her cheeks, her clothes heavy with water, yet her eyes blazed with something no one had ever seen before. The laughter began to die. Because Amira wasn't done. Amira's lips curved into the faintest, calmest smile, a smile that unnerved the bullies more than if she had shouted in anger. She stepped forward, each foot heavy but deliberate, water squelching in her shoes. "Is this what makes you feel powerful?" she asked, her voice steady. The crowd quieted, straining to hear. "A hose, a crowd to laugh at your jokes, hurting someone who hasn't done a single thing to you." Dylan blinked, caught off guard. No one ever talked back. What are you even? But Amira didn't stop. "Do you know why I don't react? Why I don't fight back the way you expect? Because I've already faced worse than this." Her voice grew stronger, shaking only with the weight of memory. "I've stood in a hospital hallway, waiting for doctors to tell me my dad wasn't coming back. I've had nights where I didn't know if my mom and I would have food the next morning. So tell me, Dylan, do you really think a garden hose is enough to break me?" Silence, pure, uncomfortable silence. The crowd that had gathered began shifting, eyes darting between Amira and the bullies. Something inside them stirred, guilt, respect, admiration. Even the ones who had laughed earlier now lowered their phones. And then Amira did something unexpected. She stepped closer, grabbed the hose from Dylan's stunned hands, and without a word, turned it on him. The icy spray drenched his expensive sneakers, his designer jacket. The crowd erupted, not with cruel laughter this time, but with cheers. His friends stumbled back, trying to avoid the water, their bravado melting away as quickly as their dry clothes. Dylan shouted, but his words were drowned out by the roar of students rallying behind Amira. For the first time, the bullies were the ones running, chased across the yard by a girl they thought was weak. Amira dropped the hose. Her chest rose and fell, not from anger but from release. She hadn't just stood up for herself, she had shown the entire school that strength isn't loud, isn't cruel, and isn't about power over others. Strength is surviving, choosing kindness, and knowing when to fight back. From that day forward, Amira wasn't just the new girl. She became the girl who made the bullies run. And somewhere deep down, every student who had witnessed that moment carried the lesson. You never really know the battles someone has already fought, and underestimating them might be your biggest mistake. Sometimes life hands you storms before you're ready, but those storms carve out strength you don't even realize you have. And when the world tries to break you again, you'll discover you're already unbreakable.